Hey guys. So for those of you who have been following, you know that I started my hitchhiking excursion. On Christmas, I flew into LAX, and when I did that, I didn't have any real plan. I did have a plan, but that plan went out the window really quick. That being because as I got there on the plane, I was kind of hoping I'd get a ride from somebody that I sat by. And being as I flew on Christmas, my plane was extremely empty, so nobody sat next to me. So then I figured maybe I'd talk to somebody in the airport and they'd offer me a ride. Tried that, and lo and behold, I was there for 20 hours and didn't get anything but a few pieces of candy from somebody, which, mind you, was great, but it wasn't a ride. It wasn't what I was looking for. After being there for a while, a woman had asked me for a few dollars. I had two $1 bills and a $20 bill, and I gave her the two $1 bills. And then after she left and walked away, I thought to myself, I really should have given her the more, but I couldn't find her after that. But it gets to be that next day, it's the day after Christmas technically, and I decide that I'm going to go and walk to the freeway where I want to hitchhike to. It's only about 2 miles away. So as I'm walking there, I notice that there's a Denny's right there, and so I'm like, oh sweet, I'm gonna spend the last little bit of my money, maybe have a little bit left, because I had $30 to my name at this point. I had a $20 bill and $10 in my bank account. So I'm gonna spend the last little bit, and I'm gonna get a nice meal. And as I did that, as I was walking in, a homeless woman asked me for some money for some food, and when I offered to buy her meal, she said that she couldn't go inside. I ended up getting a meal to go for her. So now I have taken my $30, and with everything that I spent inside, I have $4 left. And as I was inside, I kind of had a little bit of a mental breakdown, that because I had a plan, and my plan didn't go the way I wanted to. And I kind of realized that for once in my life, I was trying to give everything to God, and I wasn't able to for some reason. And so I finally talked to a couple people. They gave me a little bit of insight in that and told me what I should think about, what I should pray about. And everything became easier from then on, which is kind of crazy. From there, I left, and I spent a little bit of my time, because I had to kill time until about 6 in the next morning, and it's about 9 at night. So I spent some time in a McDonald's. I spent the rest of my money. Next morning, I go out and I stand at this spot. I slept on the streets that night. Streets of Los Angeles. So that was fun. Just on a piece of cardboard with my sleeping bag. And then woke up at about sunrise, went out. I was standing for about 2.5 hours, and I finally got a ride from a gentleman. He gave me a lift up where I needed to go. He gave me a tamale for breakfast, which was great. It was something I didn't even expect, but it was something that added such. It was just a big appreciation for that time of day. I wasn't at the next spot more than an hour and a half, and some other people who were hitchhikers picked me up. They dropped me off a little ways, and then another about 2 hours at that spot, and a gentleman picked me up, dropped me off. And I hadn't had anything too eventful at this point, but now I'm closer to downtown, and I think I'm gonna be there for a while. I ended up only being there maybe an hour, and a guy picks me up, and he's gonna drop me off about 5 miles up, but he says, if you wait in the car for a little bit, I'll give you, another 15-mile ride. I said, I'll wait as long as you want me to. But he also said that I wasn't allowed to discuss what we discussed in the car, so you can just ask me personally about that if you really want to know. Other than that, he drops me off, and at this next spot, I walk to it, and I'm standing there, and I said to myself, I'm probably there 30 minutes or so, and I say, oh man, come on, God, please send me a ride, please send me a ride. And then in the middle of me saying that, this guy drives up in this truck, and he stops, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I just got a ride in the middle of a prayer. And he rolls his window down and he says, "Hey man, you want these tacos?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And I thought about it while I was eating them, and I said, I didn't get what I wanted at the time, but I got what I needed. I may have not been hungry specifically, but I did get what I needed, whether that's what I wanted or not. And then a little bit later, some high school kids actually picked me up. They brought me to another spot, and they bought me dinner, dropped me back off. I believe it was Jeff and Darren, great kids. But other than that, right after they dropped me off, I actually got picked up by a woman who said she was going my direction and ended up totally bringing me somewhere I didn't need to go, like way out of my way. And the whole time I was riding with her, I was going, "Oh man, why are you doing this? Why don't you say something? Why don't you tell her that you don't need to go this way?" But I was overriding that myself, telling myself, there's got to be some reason that you're going this way. And as she drops me off back near a highway, but not the one I wanted, she gives me $16. And that night, I had got there right at dark, and I knew I wasn't going to fall asleep, so I tried to hitch that night, and I didn't get anything. I woke up the next day, and I had intended to, I slept right there next to the freeway, but I intended to the next day wake up a little early, read a couple passages out of my Bible, and then start. But I had woken up a little later than I expected, and I decided not to read anything. Bad mistake number one. And I stood there for 5 hours, and nobody picked me up. At about hour 4, I decided, I'm going to read. I should have done it earlier. This is just something I need to do. I read a couple passages, and in that 5 hours, I also had given away 5 of the $16, so now I have $11. Some homeless person came up, I gave it to him. And then within that 4 to 5 hour range, somebody pulls up, and I run up to his car, and I get in, and he goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going as far as this way you'll take me. I'm trying to get up to 60 so I can go to 10. And he goes, "Oh, okay, I'll bring you." And I look on his rearview mirror, and there's just this, like a rosary with a cross on it. And for some reason, I feel like I can immediately open up to this man. And so that's what I do. I just start talking, why I'm doing what I'm doing. I start talking about my faith with him. And he looks at me and he goes, for some reason, he goes, "I felt that you were the person I was supposed to pick up." And he says, something told me that. And then he starts to take an off ramp, and he says, "I'm taking this because I set aside, my 10% as a tithe so I can give it away." He goes, "I want to give you some of my tithe." And so he pulls over and he gives me some cash, and he drives me a little bit farther, right where I wanted to go, basically right onto the 60. And he drops me off. We talked for a minute, and I'm at this next spot for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. And while I'm there, I see another homeless person come by. And I had just been given this money, but I still had some money from the day before. And I said, "All right, well, I have a little bit extra, but I'll give to this man." So I gave him the 11 that I still had left. And I'm standing there waiting, still, praying, who's gonna come, send somebody. And a guy pulls up, and it was absolutely crazy. As I got to know this guy, he brought me right where I wanted to go too, but he was a refugee for 7 years. He left Iran, and he traveled from Iran all the way to England in any way you can possibly imagine. Stowed in the cargo in boats. He was under trucks. He crossed borders illegally, and now he's here, and he wants to pursue being a minister. And he's got his he's going for his GED. He's applied for a ministry school, and he ended up stopping and buying me a gallon of water and some chicken tenders at Walmart. And so we talked, and then when he dropped me off, he drove me much farther than he even wanted to go. But he said, if my car was more reliable, I would drive you all the way to where you need to go. And when he dropped me off, we prayed together for a this young kind of jumpy kid picks me up and brings me another 22 miles right up to Palm Springs. And so now I have Palm Springs, and I was told not to go past Indio, which is one of my next towns that I'm going to get to, not to go past Indio because it's desert after that, and I'm trying to get to Phoenix. And I go into the truck stop, I go to the bathroom, come out, and within 5 minutes of standing at that spot, a guy named Danny picks me up. And Danny says that he's going X amount of distance. Well, all of a sudden, I said, well, I'm not supposed to go past Indio, so if you can't guarantee me to bring me, further than that, just drop me off at Indio. And he goes, okay, perfect, we'll just play it by ear. I get in, we start talking, like we talked about everything from my faith to his faith to, he grew up this way but doesn't believe it anymore, might believe it this way. We talked about relationships and family, and it got to the point where we got to Indio, we're going through Indio, and he looks at me and he goes, looks like we're going to Phoenix. And he just, he dropped everything that night. He changed his plans completely, and he brought me right to where I was going. And for those of you who know Shelby is in Phoenix right now, Scottsdale, Phoenix area. And so that's who I was coming to see here. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it in time. And all of a sudden, this guy's bringing me right to the doorstep. And that was just amazing. And the community that I got to have with Danny was amazing. And he like some of these guys, I have their contact information. They're people that I will definitely be in contact with to hopefully grow with them and help them grow in the future. And they're definitely lifelong friends. Like they say to pay it forward, or however you want to say it. And I know that because I have been given a lot, I will give just as much back, if not more, if I can. Especially to, I have this agape, this unconditional love for everybody, but the moment that you build that brotherly love with somebody, it makes it even stronger. It makes you want to do even more for that person. And that's kind of what I see here. Like, if they're ever in need, it's something that I'll even go even more out of my way. But there's a lot of this that, over these last 2 days of hitchhiking, I've just been completely taken care of to the point where I never even thought that imagine. The woman who takes the last of her coins and gives it as her tithe, that was me. I gave away everything I had. I had nothing, and I put everything in God, and somehow I was completely taken care of. I'm the little bird that finds seed, but it's just given to me by those who see that that's the compassion that they're called to give at that time. And I guess in this video I kind of want to call you to give as much as you can. Give, almost to the point where give to where you feel like you can't do what you need to do, if that makes sense. So if somebody asks for 10 and you have a 20, but you had plans for the other 10, give them the whole 20, because something is going to come later that will take place of that 10 that you had a plan for. And that comes anywhere in life, whether it's your time, whether somebody asks for an hour of help and you give them 4. Give more than what you intend or what is asked of you, and do it in a sincere way. And I give knowing that eventually something will come back to me, but not because I want something to come back to me. And that's kind of the key to that. And to do it in the name of Christ is an even more powerful way to do it. If you guys have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. I know that there's a lot that I could go into more depth, and if you want to know more about that, you can message me or drop a comment, and I'd be happy to go through that with everybody. I hope you're having a great day. And I hope that this video, if you aren't having a great day, I hope this video actually helped with that a lot. And I can't wait to give you another update. I'll probably be leaving Phoenix in the next couple of days. And other than that, my only plan is Orlando. So once I start my way, I might stop partway somewhere. I don't know yet, but Orlando is the next destination, and it is quite a little bit of a distance from here, but I'm sure I'll make it in no time. So I love you guys, and just remember that you become a little bit of every person you meet. So who are you going to be?